If you have pain at the bottom of your foot or at your heel, you need to hear this. What's up guys, Dr. Joe Roskowski here from Identity Physical Therapy, and today we're going to be talking about plantar fasciitis. What is it and how do we treat it and get rid of it? Before we understand plantar fasciitis and how to treat it, we need to understand this one concept. And that concept is that every single human being needs access to internal rotation in their body. We need internal rotation because that's the ability to push into the ground. And we need to be able to push into the ground with the simplest of things of just standing still, walking, running, anything standing, we need to be able to push into the ground. If you can't access internal rotation in parts of the body you're supposed to, then your body will find other areas to compensate. And that's where the problem starts. So when it comes to plantar fasciitis, I see two presentations in different people who have the symptoms. One is someone who has a collapsed arch. The other is someone who has a really high arch. Same diagnosis, completely different root cause problem. So let's start with the collapsed arch. This is someone whose foot goes flat when they stand or walk, and most of the time this person is told by a doctor that this collapsed arch is a major problem with their foot and that they need to do things like strengthening the insides of their feet or getting orthotics to compensate for the problem. But none of this addresses the real root cause of why they have flat feet in the first place. And no, it's not genetic. The problem is because this person is trying to find internal rotation through their feet. It means that they don't have good access to internal rotation through their hip, and so they have to compensate by collapsing their foot down. So now their arch drops and it puts excessive stress on the plantar fascia. So basically this person is using their foot for something that their hip should be able to do. So what most people do wrong is they only focus on the foot. Like I said, they focus on strengthening the bottom of their foot or wearing insoles. Okay, it's not necessarily wrong, but it's not addressing the real problem. It's only addressing the victim. What we need to do for this person is actually look up the stream and focus on their hips. Again, they're trying to find internal rotation, so their foot is just doing what the hip can't. And so in order to restore internal rotation at the hip, we first need to reposition the pelvis to make sure that the socket is in a perfect orientation, and then we need to focus on strengthening in that new position. I'm going to give you guys exercises to do at the end of this video. But now let's look at the opposite, the high arch foot. This is someone whose foot is rigid. The foot doesn't really move. They're always on the outsides of their feet, and you can see a lot of space from the inside of their foot to the ground. This is the exact opposite problem as the last example. This is a foot that actually cannot get into internal rotation at all. And so when this happens, there's actually a twisting effect at the ankle and the foot, and the inability of the plantar fascia to essentially ever hit the ground is what causes it to be so rigid and tight and give it inflammation. And since the foot cannot go into internal rotation, with this person, you'll oftentimes see that they have knees that face really inward. That's because now that the foot can't get internal rotation, their knees are picking up the slack for it. Now, if we took the same strategy as the last person and try to strengthen up the bottom of their feet, wear insoles, they're actually going to do more damage. They're going to push their foot further onto the outside and tighten up the bottom of the foot even more. Now, for this person, we actually do want to address the foot a lot more, and the foot is the main driver of their plantar fasciitis. Notice how on the first example, I'm saying it's not a foot issue. The foot is just the victim taking all the stress. But in this example, it's more of a foot issue, and we need to address that area to get rid of the plantar fasciitis. So I'm going to give you different examples of exercises that can address this. So big picture, what we're trying to paint is that plantar fasciitis is never just a foot problem. It's an entire body issue. Your body does not have certain access to internal rotation, which is what every single human being needs. And so if we can't access that position correctly through our hips and our knees, then we're going to compensate in some capacity at our feet. All right, so for those with flat feet, we need to address the ability of the hip to move and then be able to push into the ground through that hip. So the first thing that we're going to do is a band hip pull to decompress your hip. Because what happens is your actual head of the femur rides high into the socket, and that jams up your range of motion. So all we're going to do is create a pull to give your hip space back in the joint. So you're going to take a band and tie it up to some type of pole, and then we're going to get it a little bit higher than the ground. From here, step your foot into the band so that it's around the back of your ankle, and then I want you to cross it over the top of your foot. Pull your toes up to support the band, and then you're going to slide as far back as you possibly can. And then from there, put a foam roller under your knee just to support your knee. The other leg is going to be bent like this, and then you're going to just lay completely flat and let this band pull you. If it's not enough tension, you can simply just keep sliding back until you feel like this band has a really good pull. From here, you're just going to stay just like this for 2 minutes straight. And this feels really good. You can feel the pull in the hip. You know, I love to do this just to decompress my hips and give it motion back, but this is going to be great for anyone with a flat, you know, a flat arch. All right, so next what we're going to do is a staggered RDL. Let me show you the movement and then I'm going to explain it. So what I did was fold up a towel and support the inside of my foot up to the ball of my foot. I want to make sure my big toe can actually stay down on the ground. From here, I'm going to take my opposite foot and put it very slightly in front of the other one, shoulder width apart. If I'm exercising, let's just say to the right leg, the affected leg, I'm going to use my weight in the opposite hand. From here, soft knees and push your hips back with all your weight on this affected leg heel, and you should feel upper hamstring and lower glute stretch. It's a traditional RDL, guys, just how I would always coach it, okay? And what we're trying to do is create internal rotation back at the hip. But since we already have the internal rotation at the foot, we're blocking the inside of that foot so that we don't get any more than we need to. It's all really going to be coming from the hip, opening up the back side of that hip. The reason that this works is because we're going to open up the whole backside of the hip, guys, and get into an internal rotation at that hip, but the towel is going to block the foot so that we don't continue to compress that plantar fascia. I give this to all of my patients here at IDPC who come in with plantar fasciitis or even inner knee issues and they have that really collapsed down foot. So go ahead and do 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps and then progress to the next exercise. All right, so the last exercise we're going to do for that collapsed foot is we're going to do a heel elevated split squat. Okay, specifically a goblet split squat where we use a weight in front of us. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up our affected leg on the entire ramp. No part of our foot is on the ground. Our back foot is up, our back heel is up off the ground. This weight is in front of us. From here, we're going to drop nice and vertical on our heel, up and down. Don't let your back knee hit the ground. And your front knee is in line with the middle of your foot. So now we're working on strengthening that hip with its newfound hip internal rotation range of motion, but we're using a ramp to support our foot and not let our foot collapse down into that internal rotation. What I want you guys to do is also 3 to 4 sets. We're gonna go for 6 to 12 reps depending on how heavy we are. I like to start at 12 reps with a little bit lighter weight and then drop down to the 6 reps with heavier weight. And lastly, guys, the reason we're using the weight in front of our body is it's going to allow us to shift back a little bit and really feel that heel on the ramp. So again, try these guys out. These are your 3 exercises if you have that flat foot. All right, so on the flip side, guys, now I'm gonna give the 3 exercises for you if you have that high arch in your foot. And the very first thing we're gonna do, you're gonna love this, is we're just gonna take a lacrosse ball, or if you have a baseball, tennis ball, anything that's gonna be able to massage that plantar fascia. So you're just gonna put that down on the ground. And what we're gonna be doing is massaging the space from the ball of the foot to where the heel starts. So you're just gonna take that lacrosse ball in there and roll it out. And even like, I don't have plantar fasciitis, but it feels great. So I like to go 30 seconds at a time. You really only need to do it 2 or 3 times at most. And you're just massaging back and forth. If you find a hot spot, you can just hold there and get a trigger point release. But simple as that, easy to do. So next, we already know that the hip and the knee can get into that internal rotation position, but the foot cannot. So what we want to do is be on a knee. We want to push the front knee as far forward as we can over the toes, but keep the heel down. That's the way that we know we're going to get true internal rotation at the foot and true collapse of the arch. If we let the heel lift up, then the arch won't collapse down. So we want to push that knee forward. Keep any type of weight. This is 20 pounds. I like to keep a weight on the knee because it's going to give us more of that flattening of the foot. And I want to rock back and forth 20 times. Typically, I only do about 2 sets. So we're pushing forward, keeping the heel down is the most important part, and back. I don't need to feel a huge stretch or anything anywhere, really. I'm really just focusing on collapsing that foot down and getting mobility back at that foot. All right, so the last exercise we're going to do for that arched foot is going to be a heel elevated split squat. But key points, your heel is going to be elevated on a chip or a small plate, and then the weight is going to be in the opposite hand. So let me show you the exercise, and then I'll give you a little bit more explanation. So that back foot is back and the heel's off the ground. All of our weight is forward on the front heel, and we're dropping up and down, nice and vertical, but we can push this knee forward as long as we can keep the heel down. Okay, and I want to go for like 6 to 15. Again, I start nice and light and build up to that 15 rep. And then as I get comfortable with that, I'll start going heavier and less amount of reps. But the reason that this works so well, and the reason we elevate this time with just a chip and not a full ramp, is because I actually don't want to support the inside or the arch of the foot. So if I elevate the heel and not the front of the foot, when we push down, the arch is going to get collapsed down, and that's exactly what I want. Versus if you remember on the flip side, for someone who has a flat foot, I'd want to support the whole bottom of the foot. So overall, most people are just chasing symptoms, and they don't understand the real reason behind why they're doing things. And that's why the issue keeps coming back over and over again, or never truly goes away. If you've been dealing with foot or ankle pain and it hasn't gone away, there's a really good chance no one has looked at your entire body and determined why this is happening in the first place. That's exactly what we do at Identity Physical Therapy. We take a full body assessment and movement analysis to determine where you're missing range of motion and control, and then we restore that back through hands-on strategies, breathing strategies, and then movement corrective exercise strategy. If that sounds like something you need, click the link below to get a free discovery visit, and we'll give you the root cause of your issue. And as always, guys, if you found this helpful, please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.